I'm been puffy like we all are. We're all a bunch of fat, puffy, pus-filled weebles. And I'm just done. I don't want to be a weeble. I do not want to be a weeble. I'm a weeble right now, okay? I'm heading into weeble land for sure. To waddle my way down the street, I am heading into it right now. And I'm getting older, and it's just happening via eating and enjoying all the wonderful things that our food culture has to offer. When I say wonderful, I mean gluttonous. I mean for pleasure, okay, and taste, enjoyment. I'm not at all referring to the healthy stuff, or maybe it's more accurate to say everything, including the healthy stuff, just whatever's yummy and tastes good, right? But I'm done. I am really done with living my life for that, because it's taking and taking and taking and taking, and I can't do it anymore. I can't do it anymore. I don't want to lose what vitality I know is possible. So I've had these experiences over the past 10 years. About 6 times I've engaged in a legitimate, substantial fast. Not eating something or some things to get me to a place where I experienced this youthfulness, this vitality. Now, of course, when I started doing this 10 years ago, when I was in my mid-30s, now I'm in my mid-40s, So I see my body as just evolving and getting older, and it's getting fatter. And this past 8 months, almost 10 months, so almost a year's worth of time, I've been working on baking and learning to bake. And I started baking for my kids. I have 2 little kids. I wanted to be making all this nice stuff, so I started learning all this stuff about baking, and guess what? I ate pretty much all of it. You see, there it is right there. I'm seeing it there, and I'm hating this. Like I say, even if I just pretend inside my mouth and I go, I can't even do it that much from that position. If I go here, I can do more. I can be like, anyway, I'm kidding myself. But the idea is to just inspire me that, I know I want to have a more, I guess the word is chiseled look. I've never been an exerciser my whole life. I guess I'm intimidated in some ways by the world of exercise and the way people hype everything up, and it gets very competitive, and the whole kind of energy around it. And I know that energy in other aspects of life, just not in athletics. I've only touched it a couple times, like in my early 30s, late 20s, early 30s. I mean, I had been sort of a kid I was into music, and I wasn't into sports, and I also I grew very fast, and I was kind of clumsy, and my dad was like an asthmatic kid in the 50s or whatever, and so he didn't get into sports. He got into other interests, politics and such, and then didn't raise his kids really with a relationship with that, beside throwing a ball around a little bit in the backyard, and so and horseshoes. But anyway, that didn't get passed on. I had other interests, and so being physical, being athletic has never been a substantial part of my life, with one exception, and that was when I was a junior and senior in high school. I was on the cross-country team, and I experienced an amazing experience. This was, 11th grade, so I'm about, 16 years old, something like that, and I experienced within, it had to be about 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks, in the fall, would have been like 1983. I lost 25 pounds at that stage of my life. It was an incredible, incredible experience. Maybe it was more closer to like 22, 23, like that, So it just transformed my body. I went from being around 200 pounds to 175 pounds in like 8 weeks. Now, I mean, they ran me like a dog. They really did. I just did what they said, and I'll never forget the first day. Okay, it was like, come on, here we go. We all met at the school. When we ran, it was about a mile away from the school, so we had to run alongside the road. I didn't know what I was doing. I just signed up for this with a bunch of friends, and I go along, and all of a sudden, we're in this big field area, and I'm kind of dragging already. It's been a mile, but I'm like, hey, this is cool, and I'm along with everybody, and it's kind of casual, because it's a warm-up. Little do I understand what's happening. We get to this place, and these big fields, and it's like, okay, here we go, and we just start running, and that's when my memory slipped out. I remember nothing else from that point except getting back on the road. Like, I remember that we ran and 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 ran, and then we get back on the road off of the dirt and the fields and stuff, and I'm thinking to myself then, this is when my brain turns back on again. It's an hour later, hour and a half later, something like that. And I'm like, now I got to run back to school. I have to walk. Even if I had to walk, I was going to die. I forget it. I couldn't believe it. And that was the first day. I thought I was going to die. I didn't die. And I just did what they said. And you know what happened? All of a sudden, a couple of months later, I was on this team. I was terrible. I was like the worst guy, right? I did get most improved player the second year, though. I worked hard, like I tried. But most of all, so I wasn't really great for the team, so to speak. But I went to the meets. We rode on the bus, all that business. But I had a lot of time. It was very contemplative to be running in fields and under trees when you're in that zone, and it's a very rhythmic kind of zone. So I'm telling this, and if anybody's athletic, obviously, you all know that already. I'm the one who's trying to connect with it again, because beside that, I only had a couple of moments in my life where I got involved in something that was physical. I did racquetball about 8 years ago for a couple of years in the wintertime with a buddy of mine. We'd go to the racquetball court, and then when in my late 20s, early 30s, I did this ultimate frisbee, and that was the most intense thing. Even though I didn't grow a lot, I played every week with a little group of people. I don't know, there were like 10 of us to 15 of us, and we played every week for 2 summers. And in one summer, just from the beginning of the summer to the end of the summer, I was absolutely astounded at how much more fit I was by just spending, one time a week playing this game. But when we played it hard, and we ran, and I was running and jumping, and I was experiencing, wow, at the time I was thinking, wow, I really don't know this. I didn't do any of that kind of sports in high school. I tried out for every team there we had. We didn't have football, but I tried out for soccer, basketball, tennis, the track team, and they all wouldn't have me. Okay? Not a single one. I tried out for every one, and they were like, ugh. It was humiliating and rough, and so the cross country kind of couldn't say no. They got all these guys, and we're like, all right, man. But they whipped us into shape. It was an amazing experience because I learned something about what's possible. And then later, what I relate that more to is like the fasting, because later on I do these fasts, and about 10 years ago I did one, and then from there I started doing them every year or so, every other year, and it turned out to be a fast of originally a couple of days leading up to almost 3 weeks, where I did the lemonade fast, and I experienced a cleansing for sure, like a real process. Now I'm at a place though where I am wanting to free myself from that pattern of experiencing a cleansing and then returning back to normal life. And I'm afraid that I have to kind of give things up. So I started with the most important thing in my life, which is, what I mean to say is, the most important obstacle was maybe the most important thing in my life, which is drinking coffee.